Okay. All right. So good morning or good afternoon or good evening to you out there in LINL land. I am Lou. This is Long Island Nightlight Radio interviews. I'm getting together today with Jacob Tell, singer-songwriter from Los Angeles, California. Big recent contributor to Lionel Radio. I got actually he's in the double digits now. I think I've got 10 tunes
Okay,
from him. So that's pretty
nice.
awesome. I always appreciate that. Um, but anyway, so I just am really pleased to welcome Jacob today to Long Island Radio interviews. How you doing, Jacob?
I'm good, and it's just cool to be here. It's cool to be talking to you because you are, I was saying before how much I admire what you're doing with the station and with the show and giving a platform for indie artists from across uh, all genres. But you are, it's interesting. You have 10 tracks of mine. You are, one of the, there's some really great indie radios out there, and you're one I always, if I have a new single, I'll send you the track, the a couple of days before it's coming out because you're just so great about playing stuff. It really means a lot to me. It's very cool to be here. So thank you.
That's awesome. You are welcome. And, I appreciate the compliments, but none of it would be possible. I wouldn't be able to facilitate anything without, the fantastic artists who are good enough to trust me with facilitating their music and getting
Right
this
on.
to play, getting some airplay. So I wanted to, maybe sort of go in reverse a little bit with you today, Jacob. The
Sure.
latest, and always, correct me if I'm wrong, but the latest single I believe is One Final Thought of You. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, so I thought maybe we could start off by just talking about that one. What ideas are behind it, how you went about producing it and distributing it and all that kind of thing. I have
Sure.
a little question about the artwork. I'm a little curious about the artwork there. So
The
maybe,
artwork is, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That was that's my brother
Oh yeah,
and my
that's
brother
really
David Teller and another artist, Her Kingdom, who's they kind of put something together. Yeah, it's very sort of evocative.
yeah.
But the song is I wrote it pretty recently. It was finding out about an ex girlfriend of mine who was, I found out through a third party that she was getting married. Yeah, that actually led to me getting in touch with her and talking to her, and we're now friends. Worked through all the insanity, but the initial impetus of the song, and it's kind of a trope, I guess, in love songs was finding out someone's going to get your ex is getting married, and it was just my visceral reaction to that and sort of where I was in life, and sort of how um, when you're single, you have all these options open to you, but that sort of all those options can seem like it's almost it cripples you from acting on any of them. You sort of get overwhelmed by the amount of options, and you sort of get stuck in a certain place. And I think it's part of like sort of the getting over someone. It's sort of, you always go through that period where you're sort of still stuck in you have those feelings for her, and you're sort of stuck in that space, and you need to move on, and there's all these different options, and you're overwhelmed. So it was just really, you know uh uh based on that. um and it's interesting, the recording of it. I have my album Hard to Be Humans coming out next month, in January, and we're just my producer Don Douglas, who has an outfit and not in Phoenix, in Arizona, called Desert Island Studio. He's putting together the album, but this One Final Thought of You isn't going to be on the album. It kind of didn't fit, which is kind of funny. It's like, we recorded this song during the sessions. We recorded about 13 different songs, and 11 are going to be on Hard to Be Human. One Final Thought of You is just going to be a single and probably be show up on an album down the road. But we and I met Don. It's sort of like an interesting story. We there's a I don't know, you know, the retweeter on Mark Winder, the retweeter
Yeah.
on X.
Yep.
He was like the first one to really start playing my stuff, and he introduced me to Eclectric Records, which is now the label I'm with. And they introduced me to Don, who's my producer. So it was just through these. It's funny, like the
Sure.
social media actually, you know, as terrible as it can be, there are some
It can
good
be
things that
useful.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some good things that can come out of it in terms of you know, meeting people like me. I wouldn't have known about LINL if not for X too.
Good.
And so but we started working on Hard to Be Human, in the tracks for it, on June, and this was one of the tracks that was done during those sessions. So yeah, I've just been working with him, and all the stuff I've been sending you for, you know, since like late June through now, have been produced by him.
It's funny because you're talking about how hard to be human. It doesn't quite fit with the LP that you're
Right.
creating, and it's funny when you're writing and creating songs for an LP, how something may stand out in a sense that it's maybe pointing the way towards what you're doing next musically. And I think that's
Exactly.
yeah.
And it is actually going to be, it is sort of indicative of what I'll be doing next, because Hard to Be Human is socio-political, and it's like the worst time in the world to be writing songs like that. But I'm like, you know what? And it's like, I'll do that now, and then, you know, a couple of years from now, when things have calmed down and balanced out a little bit,
Sure,
I think people will be able to listen to it, and you know, and be more open to it. But I'm
sure,
just
sure.
really, it's really a chronicle, and it's not taking sides. It's just really chronicling really the anxieties and the struggles we're all having right now. And I really miss, one of the reasons why I'm doing it is that I remember really until like, you know, 2015, having friends, regardless of what their political ideologies were, it just never came up in
Sure.
conversation. And if it did, you talked through it, and if you couldn't talk through it, you just sort
Yeah.
of never
Yeah.
revisited it.
Forget it, and that was it. Yep.
Well, I mean, I just sort of miss sort of. I feel like people used to talk so much
Yeah.
more,
No, I know,
and
and you could
yeah,
agree to disagree, you know?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and it wasn't a big deal. And I think that's the great thing about music is you either like a song or you don't, and that kind of, and it doesn't matter what your political background is, and it brings people together. But the next album I'll actually be doing two EPs, because my producer's like, nobody listens to albums anymore. So we're gonna do two EPs. One is gonna be just love songs, original love songs, like One Final Thought of You, and another one I'm doing a bunch of covers. So that'll be interesting.
yeah.
Um, uh,
Um, I was just thinking about now you said that the current tunes are socio-political. Are you inspired or influenced by artists like that, or
well, yeah, I mean, I think that, well, my biggest influences are, Lennon, McCartney, George Harrison. I mean,
sure.
there's, you know, when I stumbled, I was 14 years old when I stumbled across the LP of Sergeant Pepper. My older brother David, he had this huge record collection, and I stumbled across that, and I had sort of, I knew Yesterday, but I put on that record, Sergeant Pepper, and the way it starts with the orchestra starting to tune up and the guitars coming in, it was the closest I've had to a religious experience.
Wow, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, you can do, like, this exists, like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
rock and roll,
Yeah,
yeah.
it broke the boundaries of what an album, was. So,
Well, yeah, and then of course you get into, then I had to listen to everything by them, solo stuff too. So they've been a huge influence. But yeah, Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Paul Simon. So I don't know. None of the music I've ever listened to has been overtly political. Some of the Bob Dylan stuff is, but it was sort of different for me. I was just really reacting. I just felt like, um so much unprecedented stuff is happening right now,
Sure.
that as an artist I felt like I just need to chronicle it. I
Yeah.
just need to be a chronicle.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and even if it's just observation and not not one not leaning one side or the other, which I don't really get that sense when I listen to your music. I don't get
Thank
this. I
you.
get the
Yeah.
sense of someone who's kind of just looking from a human standpoint, and not
Yeah.
necessarily right or left. And
Yeah.
that's probably where and I think I made this comparison before. Your music and I guess, that perspective reminds me a little bit of Long Island's Harry Chapin.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. He's
Harry
he's also a big influence on me.
and
Yeah.
and Harry was equally critical of both sides.
Well, I got
So,
to tell
he was
you,
amazing like that, so yeah,
they're both full of it. I mean, they're
yeah,
both
yeah.
they're it's performative, it's performative, it's theater, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that's the problem right now is we have these figureheads in these positions, and I guess I think the only people who should be in Congress are people who understand how to and who want to write legislation. We
right.
want like the wonky, nerdy, like
Yeah, yeah.
total. I'm
Someone who
sick of
hasn't seen
having
a lot
these.
of day in 2 weeks, like because 'cause they're studying and whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just sick of watching these people who have no substance to them, who just
sure.
take money, and they're all corrupted by money, all of
Yep,
them.
of course.
Maybe a handful aren't, but I think they shouldn't be able to trade on the stock market. I think lobbyists should be outlawed, and that's really my main issue with politics.
The influ
Is I mean, there's a line in that sums it up in cracks appearing all around. The only thing that everybody agrees on is you know uh, you know uh, passing a deal when lunch is free.
yeah,
It's like that's what I'm really against, is how money has corrupted all of our institutions.
absolutely, absolutely. And, yeah, and like I said, that's where I think that comparison comes in, and that's a great one because, just living on Long Island, you see that Harry Chapin's
Yeah.
influence is still here. So, to be aligned with that, I guess, thinking, and also the thinking, which I truly believe is that to get anything meaningful done, you're gonna have to work with both sides, you know?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's how he was, and, that's what I see with some of like you said, with music, I think it makes it possible, I guess, to go straight down the middle, I'm not sure exactly how, but you can view things through that human perspective and see both sides. I'm not sure exactly how it allows that, but
I think what you said about compromise is what's so important, is that it is everything in life is about compromise, and it's never going to be fully what you want, and go with that and be okay with that, and a lot of times through that compromise thing you'll get the better option. um
yeah, instead of eradicating the other side that disagrees with you, you know?
Yeah, and there's too much of that now.
Yeah,
It's like if you don't have the X, believe X and Y, if you don't use the right word, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to make you feel terrible. And it's like, no, that's not the way.
yeah,
You have to be bringing people to the table and opening things up for discussion and making people feel safe to say what they believe.
sure, sure. No, I agree with you, and like I said, if you're wondering, that perspective definitely comes through in your music. That's what I
Thank
get,
you.
from listening to it. I'm curious how you got originally started. We talked about your influences and everything, but like, what is guitar your first instrument? Like,
Oh
how did you
yeah,
get started
yeah.
with playing? And, did you grow up in a musical family? Are you the black sheep?
I so
how
my
did that go?
family, I have my on my mom's side, all her uncles were musicians.
Cool.
But they were like like horn players, and like serious, serious musicians.
Gotcha.
I actually, when I was again around the time I listened to I stumbled upon Sergeant Pepper. My mom took me to see La Bamba. Do you remember
Yeah.
the Richie Valens?
Sure.
so, I just that movie. Uh, uh, there was something about him, and it was like him up against that image of him, like walking down the hallway with his guitar, and it was just like him against the world with his guitar. So I begged my mom to buy me a guitar, and just started playing from there. And it was really because of that movie,
Wow, that's interesting.
and I just remember like learning all of the songs off of the soundtrack album, and then learning all the Beatles stuff. At the same time, I was listening to U2, like, Joshua Tree had just come out. So I was learning all those songs. And so I think like I've always been like, and I was, the Smiths. So it was always this weird, I got into Pink Floyd. So it was always sort of this weird sort of like, for me, like the groups that were the rock groups that were popular at the time, I was really into, with the established classic rock, I guess.
Sure.
Sort of those two styles were always, I was always like trying to learn stuff from both those camps. And that's really how I learned how to play guitar, was just listening to those records, and figuring out what they were playing, I became a total chord nerd,
Mhm.
buying all the chord books. I'm really into, I'm a rhythm guitarist. So like the different learning different voicings is really, sort of an obsession of mine. But that's how I got started. And I was in bands in high school. I started writing like around fifth, when I was about a year later, I started writing, and all those early songs are terrible. Uh, and I remember I remember two or three of them, and I'll play them for people, because I'm like, yeah, can you believe how terrible this is? Because they're so terrible, I can't forget them. Like I can't. It's like they're just so like just awful. But that's the thing, though, is you keep writing terrible songs, and
Yeah.
but you just keep doing it, and then one day you write a good song.
Do you
And
do you remember specifically what the breakthrough song was? The way you were like, "Oh, I think I can do this now."
that's an interesting, because it's probably something I wouldn't. There was, yeah, it's all stuff that I wouldn't
Yeah,
play
it's probably
now.
in your past, but at least it
But in
triggered
my
you,
Yeah, there
like,
was
"I
this
think I can do
one.
this."
I remember I wrote this song called "I'm Not a Number," and people seemed to like that and responded to it like it was a good song. There were like a bunch of, again, it was like you just keep writing.
Sure.
But there were a bunch of songs that suddenly, like, I was with groups and we would start performing them,
Yeah.
and a lot of them I would never play now, but for the time I was like, yeah, this is a good song. There are a whole bunch. God, that's a really good question, because I haven't. There's just a whole like 20 or 30 songs I was writing and performing during high school and college, that today I would never ever. I'd be like, oh, come on, like those
Right,
are.
right,
I mean, they're okay, but back then, and I'm just trying to think. There were so many of them. Mr. Policeman was one.
uh-huh.
They're just, but when I
Yeah.
guess, having the perspective I have now, it's
You re
it's yeah.
I don't know if you're revealing a checkered past with that title, Mr. Policeman. Maybe you're in trouble with the law or something.
No, no, I was well. It was just growing up in Los Angeles, the police, the LAPD, like to just harass young kids.
Sure. Because of
And
that,
I've never gotten in trouble with the law, but if you were late, if you were late out, if it was you were out at night, they would just come up to you and harass you and search your car, and I don't know, so it was just sort of in response to that. But no, I've always been very, very respectful of our fine laws.
Do you have a particular favorite out of your I know I'm not supposed to ask, like, which child, you
Yes.
favor, but do you have a particular favorite out of your tunes that you've produced and distributed?
I can't. I really have to say. I mean, they're all. Um, I would say Zero Street because it's the most personal song I've ever written, and it deals directly with depression, substance abuse. Again, it's more of sort of at the end, in the end, more of a you're not alone in this kind of thing. There's if you're having issues with depression or substance abuse, you're in good company.
Got
Uh, and it's sort of like you need, be brave, and it's one thing to admit that you need help, but taking that next step and actually asking for help is difficult too. But I think that's probably my favorite track, just because it's the most personal, dealing with an issue that I think needs to still be that still has a lot of stigma that still isn't sort of talked about as openly as it
Sure.
should be.
Absolutely. I
But
agree.
but I love all of them. But yeah, but that one sticks out for that reason.
Um, you mentioned that the full album is coming out in January, because
Yes.
my last question is for you is just what's coming next for Jacob Tell. So what's the do you have an exact date for that?
No, well, I mean, it'll probably be closer toward the end of the month, right? Hey, oh, who's the cat?
This is Danny the cat. He just joined us in the studio. I just figured I'd show him off
Nice,
for a moment.
nice.
Yeah.
I'm a huge cat person, so
Okay, good.
well.
Yeah, just so you know, it's like being on speakerphone, just so you know that there are other ears on our conversation right now. Yeah.
Not that I'm being surveilled by a cat.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't
So
he doesn't care.
it'll
Yeah.
probably be mid to probably mid around, or the mid part of the month.
Okay.
Don's still finalizing all the mixes for it. And then after that, I'll be doing we're going to be recording. Our goal is a song a month, and it's going to be a mix of, so there's going to be two EPs, one of original all love songs. As Don said, no more political songs. That's what he told me. You've
Yeah,
done the political thing.
that's
Move on.
that's funny.
So we're going to be doing original love songs, and then an EP of covers. And the covers I've been working on to bring to him. I have some demos. A stolen car, Bruce Springsteen
Okay.
is one. Femme Fatale, Velvet Underground is another one,
Interesting.
and Only Living Boy in New York, Paul Simon are. So those are the kind of the songs I'm thinking of
Cool.
doing, but who knows if they'll end up on the EP at this point.
Sure. Um,
But
all
it's
right.
really cool doing covers because Don plays drums, but I play bass and guitar. But like really learning those other bass and guitar parts, and like really getting it, it's like you have a new appreciate, because I usually don't do covers.
Right,
But it's
right.
like really getting into it. It really opened up a lot
And yeah, and
for me.
it'll probably like end up expanding your writing the next time you write after that, because you're kind
Definitely.
of absorbing some style or some pathway that someone else went while they were writing. So
Most
yeah,
definitely, especially as like a bass player. I was like, it's like really, it was really challenging to like figure out the different bass parts. But it was cool. It just sort of yeah, I don't know. It was a really cool experience. And I mean, it's something I don't know what the final covers will be, but that's sort of what I'm immersed in doing demos for that right now.
cool. Yeah, testing the material out, see what works and everything. So very cool. I look forward
Absolutely.
to, all three of those projects, actually, the album and the two
Thank you.
EPs. And I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. Yeah, I appreciate you giving your time today, Jacob. I mean, it's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I enjoy talking to you. I'm, it goes without saying you'd be more than welcome to come back at some point if, got something, one of those
I'd love to.
EPs
Yeah.
is popping or whatever, and you want to talk it up, that would be awesome. Um, so for those of you who are watching, appreciate you very much, and always ask you to like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of thing. And definitely check the description if you're checking out the YouTube video, because I'm going to leave a whole bunch of links that to direct you to Jacob's music. If you're listening to the audio on Long Island Nightlight Radio, always appreciate you. Just keep in mind, Lionel Radio is 24/7 music and music content. So you can leave the dial right there. But once again, thanks very much to Jacob Tell from Los Angeles for joining us. And
Thank you, Lou.
yeah, we look forward to having you back again sometime. Thanks,
I'd
Jake.
love to. Thanks, Lou.
Okay.